Hello guys, I am Diego Lizarazo, and today I'm going to create another small video around game creation with Construct 2. It's going to be around text boxes and basically, the text plugin and especially the password. So this comes from a question that was made in one of my videos, and if you want to check them, just go to my YouTube channel, so YellowTube here. And also, quite likely, I'm going to publish this video at the end at my site, Geek Ego, so you can check there most of my videos and demos, etc., etc. Okay, so basically I just created a small new project over here, and I am going to add what we're going to be talking about. So I double click and I'm going to be looking for text. So right now we have two different plugins that have to do with text, or that come with the vanilla Construct 2, and it's the text box and the text. In most of the examples that I've been making, I use the text because that's how I display something. But today we're going to be using the text box, right? So I'm going to put it here. So the big difference between the text box is this is an input method. With the text, that I'm also going to create one here, usually you display something, and that's why it has some default text that I don't know, hello there. So here the user is going to have like the opportunity to type some text, and here we're going to see it. I'm going to execute this really quick. And well, obviously here in the text we're going to display the text that I put there, and on the text box we're going to be able to type everything that we want to type on our text box. Now, given that, we should be able to find out more about the properties of the text box that we have here. So first I'm just going to change the shape. This is going to be reflected there, and then we can click on the text box, and on the properties pane we're going to be able to see the different properties, right? And this is great because we are going to find something like the type. So by default we have the text, that is what we have already seen, but if you click here the drop list, you're going to be able to see that there are different kinds of text box. So I'm going to answer first the one that I was asked about in, like I said, in a YouTube comment on one of my previous videos, and it's around the password. I'm going to go for that one, and we're going to execute our small game. So now, just because this text box was set as password type, whenever you type something, you don't see the value here, just like you would have with a password field in any regular website, right? But the important thing is that even though the user is not able to see it, we can check that value. So what I'm going to do is I am going to say that whenever the text box is changed, we are going to also modify the text. To do that, we're going to use the event onTextChanged. So whenever someone types here, we're going to modify here. So to do that, we need also the action for the text. It's going to say set text, and I'm going to get the value that we have in the text box. So text box text. So I'm going to test this, and we're going to have the new version here. And what I'm going to type, so you can see it, for the password is this. Oops, this is a test. So this is what I was typing, and this is what we have here. Obviously, if you're going to put a password, you are not supposed to make it visible. That's the entire point. But what I wanted to illustrate is that in using the expression textbox.text, we can get the value that the user is getting here. Now, this is the first part, that how do you enter a value that is a password in your game. You would do something on the terms of like logging or something like that. But the other part is like, what do you do with that password? So if you're going to, for example, just save some local information and you're going to use a password to decide if you want to display it or not to the user, then you don't have a lot of work to do there. You are just going to say something like use the local storage. Then you can save the password somehow in your local storage, and then you can figure it out, especially if it's a device. You could try to figure that out. It still is not incredibly secure because you are not encrypting or anything like that. The problem is like usually most systems, when you are logging, you are not doing any like local check. To log in, you would have to connect to a website, to connect to a server. And to do that, quite likely you would have to use the Ajax plugin to basically connect to an external system. That part I'm not really going to cover in this video. Perhaps at some other point I can show you like a small example, like with a PHP server or something like that. It could be using OpenShift, it could be using Azure or something that is going to host your small server. But the entire point is that that's not the scope of this video. That being said, now you already know that you can use the text box using the type password to actually get the password. Now let's check some of the other values that we have, the other types that we have. So the other one is email. And this one obviously is expecting for you to enter an email. I'm going to say here. And this is going to be something like d@d.com, right? But what happens if that's not what you enter? Something like, I don't know, basically nothing. Because even if it's expecting a password, you should do, except if you put it like here, like the mouse over, you see the message that please include the ad in the email, and that's basically the only thing that it's doing. But if you're going to use this on your mobile games, you're not going to have this on hover message that you have here, so that's not really much use. So you still have to do like a checking by yourself. The other one is number. So obviously this is going to expect numbers, and if you get any letters here, so it's not letting you. I'm typing at this moment and it's not letting you, but if you begin to put numbers, it begins to accept the numbers. So it's only going to accept numbers there, and it's going to force it. So that's quite useful in case that you are, for example, doing an inventory or something like that, and you want to say like how many, or I don't know, like a shop inside your game, how many swords or shields do you want to buy? And with this, you're going to avoid the problem of the user typing anything else that is not a number. So that's quite useful. Telephone number, you can see the description here, at the bottom. And the kind of text center. Okay, yes. Yes. Not going to really do much of checking, because I think this is more like on the format that you're going to have phone numbers sometimes here in the US and other countries that include like some characters like the dash. So in this case, it's not like the most most useful thing ever, but it goes with the specification of HTML5, so that works. Now we also have the URL. This one I find it a little bit more useful, and is that also going to give you a little bit of a warning if you have the hover, if you're not putting something in the terms of abc.com. You see, it's just giving you kind of like a hint. This is what I'm expecting here, but it's still kind of like letting you put whatever kind of things that you want. So use the, if you want just an URL, you would have to do like the checking by yourself. Finally, we have the text area. So the text area is not really about the input or how you do it. It's more about like how it's going to be displayed. But I think the best example would be if we make this a little bit smaller. So something like this. So you're going to be able to see the you have the chance to actually write a big text, and you're going to have the scroll bar that is going to appear whenever the text is bigger than the text area. If we don't do that, if we just turn it into a regular text, and let's suppose that we have something like this, for once you're not really going to have a scroll bar. It's just going to keep moving towards the right. And second, if by any chance you hit the enter, it's not really going to kind of like go to the next line. In the text area is going to give you that option that obviously is quite useful, and of course you can do something on this term. So if you wonder why the text is not showing, this is because obviously it's too small. So if I do something like much bigger, then I'm going to have the chance to display everything that I have here. Of course, here I don't have the scroll bar until I don't use all the space that has been given to the text area, that in this case was quite big. So, and I should have it there, which is quite useful, as you can see. Now, if we go back to the text box, one of the other things that I would like to show is that you have also the chance to put a tooltip. So this is, well, it gives you the description here. This is the text that appears when you hover the mouse on that text area, but that basically assumes that you are using a computer. If you're using this game for a mobile device, you only have touch, you don't have a mouse hovering, so that's not going to work so much. But for example, this is a test for the tooltip, and then if we have it there, this is exactly the kind of message that we're expecting. And of course you can put some whatever you want there, like, hey, I'm expecting only letters here, hey, this is a test, welcome to my game, whatever you want, right? The other thing that is really important is if it's read-only. So let's suppose that I say yes, and then I just put some sort of like text here, like B, 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 M, 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 whatever. So it's going to be displayed. I can copy paste it, but then I cannot really type on this text area. So that basically turns the text box, the text box is going to be turned almost into a text area. But well, at least you can copy paste if that's what you want to do. So you also have that option there. So in this case, read only, no. And finally, the last option that you have here that could be useful for you is if it's going to be spell checked. Now, this is going to be depending on the browser that you're going to be running this game from Construct 2. If your browser does not have spell check enabled, then this option is not going to do much. But let's suppose that I'm saying yes. And of course, also because the browser has in its settings a language, you will have to change those settings if you want to spell check in a different language that is not English. That is the one that I have by default here. So, for example, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to say You see it? So the house. Now the house. Now if you make a mistake, like what day is going to have a little bit of an underscore that is going to be telling you like, hey, that's a mistake, or I think that this is something that is not spelled correctly. And now is going to do it correctly. So you don't have to do the spell checking by yourself, which is quite useful. And but like I say, that depends on the browser that you're going to be executing or using for your game. And also, if it has good spell checking, it's going to be good. If not, somehow, if it's lousy spell checking, you're going to have errors in almost every single line. But that's pretty much it. So I think now it's time to use what we just learned with a small example. Like let's see, what do we do? And I am just going to be asking something simple here on my game. Is your name David? And here in the text, I'm going to receive a yes or a no. I'm going to expect that. Just to make it simple, I'm not going to do the entire thing of like, let's figure out if it's capital or not capitals. I'm going to wait for an answer that is yes or a no, and all caps, okay? And then we're going to compare the value that we're going to get there to have a different response here. So what I'm going to do here first is that whenever I select the text area, the text box, I am going to clean the value that is here to be able to receive the new value that we have. To be able to do that, we go to the events, and I'm going to save when the text box is clicked. So on clicked, I am going to completely delete the value of the text box. So I'm going to say text box set text, and I'm just going to leave it like that. So basically empty. So if we try that, answer here, and immediately is going to be empty, so I can put whatever I want, and is going to receive the clean value. Now I have a little bit of a problem, and is that the player can start typing here whatever they want, and it could be like a long string or it could be something small. I'm expecting a yes or a no, but to know when the user stopped typing, I could do several things. Or I can add a button here and say, so he would have to say like yes and then enter, or I could add the plugin of the keyboard to say like, hey, detect the enter. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to say is I'm going to compare here on the text change, right? So every single time that something is typed, the text is changing, and then I'm going to compare with yes, or I'm going to compare with no. So I already have an event that is basically checking if the text has been changed. So I'm going to do a sub event. To do that, if you don't remember, you just right click and say add blank sub event, or you, like I do, just use the hotkey B. So I press the letter B, and I have this one here, and this is only going to be executed when the main one, the main event, is trigger, that in this case is on text change. Now the event that I have here has to do with the text box, so I pick text box, and I have here the option of compare text. I kind of forgot that you could say here that it could be case sensitive or case insensitive. So I'm going to say case insensitive. So regardless of how you write yes, it's still going to be triggered. So you could do it all capitals, no capitals, like combination, and still it's going to be triggered, which is quite cool. And what I'm going to say is that, well, I'm even going to copy paste. Well, actually, I'm going to move it here. So, and, well, or no. Let's leave it there, doesn't matter. Text, set text, hello David, right? David, yes, I should type correctly. There you go. So I click here, and then I'm going to say yes. hello David. Now, what happens if I have something that says no? Then I am going to copy paste this entire event, and instead of comparing with yes, I'm going to be comparing with no. And then instead of this, I'm going to say hello Mr. X, or whatever I want. Type here, no, hello Mr. X. The thing is that also if I continue typing, because how I have it set up right now here is going to change it. So for example, Nolan, you see the hello Mr. X is gone, but I could perfectly delete and say yes to get a hello David, or again space no, and then you're going to have a little bit of a problem because you said space no. That's not the same thing as no. But well, these are the kind of things that you have to check when you're using the text box and you're kind of like comparing a text. So perhaps here, instead of just like comparing with no, it could be something like contains no, and you can use some of the string functions that you already have with construct to do that kind of thing. But this is kind of like the basics. Okay, so that was the video that I had for today. As you may imagine, this particular aspect of Construct 2 may not be useful for every game, depends on what you want to do, and in some cases it's going to be much more useful than others. But well, I had this question about the password, and I figured out that I've never covered this plugin in particular, so it would be interesting to do so, and I hope that you enjoy it. Check my website, check my YouTube channel, download my game templates. Quite likely I'm going to be more active in the following days, and let me know if you like them or any kind of like topics that you would like me to cover. And besides that, have a great day.